Hi, it's Julie. I'm very excited to share that we'll be doing a special edition of the Grow Your Occupancy podcast. It'll be several podcasts long, and it is resolving the occupancy puzzle. So, I'm going to do a deep dive into the third edition of the puzzle book. The first edition was released about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. The second is on Kindle, slightly revised, and this edition is revised and updated to include some additional pieces, some additional components to focus a little bit with for executive directors and sales directors, about 25-30% revised from the original version. I've been asked to do an audible of the book, and in the interim, I'm going to do a podcast series. So we'll take apart like chapter by chapter. Please put in comments or send me messages about what you'd like to hear more about. And if you'd like to do or hear role play examples, or if you've got a challenge, you're just not sure, or you'd like some help and support and maybe talk through, put your comments, like, share, subscribe so other people can get the benefit of the skill building on resolving the occupancy puzzle. I'm not sure how many podcasts this will be. We'll get started. Hope you enjoy. Please let me know.
This webinar is brought to you by SalesMail, the #1 personalized video app for senior living.
Built on a powerful ROI and an unmatched customer experience, SalesMail's App Store ratings tell the only story you need to know. Generating higher click-through and conversion rates, SalesMail is a video app of choice for sales and marketing pros everywhere. Day after day, SalesMail users leverage video to build brand loyalty, create human connection, quickly establish trust, stand out from competitors, and get desired results faster.
Hi, this is Julie. Welcome to our special edition of the Grow Your Occupancy Podcast. This is resolving the occupancy puzzle. This will be podcast 1 in a series of, I'm not sure how many. I'm so excited to do this series to kind of pick apart, or if you will, maybe that's not the right verbiage, but dig into the book a little bit, answer some questions that like frequently asked questions, look at things that I hear are great challenges, share some wins. And the reason I wrote the book, the reason I'm on the third edition of it, and what's been revised from the first 2 editions and so on. So it'll be me. I may have a guest on here and there. Let's get started. All right. So, resolving the occupancy puzzle, or the first book during COVID, and it's specifically for regional directors where I see business falling, the greatest gap. I don't say falling apart, but the greatest gap and the greatest potential is in the regional level. The regional directors training up, coaching up, focusing on our sales, boots on the ground, and virtually. And we tend to rely on them so much, and there's a ton of pressure. And the VPs of sales and the CMOs don't have the bandwidth and shouldn't get really far into the weeds. I know I've been in the weeds as a CMO, we all have, but ideally, the VPs of sales, the CMOs are leading the regionals. They are using the same systems and processes coaching up the regionals, should be, and ideally, and as regionals are with their sales people. And regionals should spend the majority of their time coaching up, working alongside, working on skill building, uh, working on accountability, showing and helping and demonstrating to sales directors, to the executive directors, where there may be gaps, what they're looking at, how they're looking at it in a factual way, not an emotional way, in a factual way. to engage and grow that skill set, help them grow that skill set of analyzing your business and putting an action plan together based on where the greatest gaps are, where the focus should be in any given time. We're going to talk about putting a strategy together. Let me just say, there's too much strategizing going on. We're going to do a new strategy. We're going to do a strategy. What's our strategy for this? So you don't need to come up with a new strategy all the time. A strategy is the big picture, the rule book, the playbook. If you don't have a playbook, highly recommend that you put one together. At Grow Your Occupancy, we write playbooks for companies very specific to the company's culture and system and process. Certainly we will lean in and help on that. It's a playbook of sorts, but this isn't step by step how to sell and how to do each section or each part of the sales process. This is a little bit higher level. So don't have a playbook. That's one and done. You've got to have expectations written out. What is expected of the job? And certainly with sales, it's deposits and checks. It's move-ins. Move-ins, of course, operations. Operations is always involved. But from a sales perspective, you're looking for revenue. You're looking for checks. Then you can bubble it up from there, go backward from there. How many tours does it take based on the conversion of tour to deposit? How many tours do you need to get that many deposits, to get that many move-ins? How many phone calls to get that many tours? That one's a little more challenging because there's a consistent, I have not seen a lot of consistent data there with, this many calls yields you this many tours. With tours to deposits, consistent. Don't want to jump around too much here, but tours, if you're measuring one thing, measure the tours. And make sure that your teams are hyper focused on how many tours they have, and they're very aware of their conversion and the impact the conversion has on the outcome. You do 24 tours, and if you're converting at 1 out of 4, you have 6 move-ins. Converting at 1 out of 3, you have 8, right? For the same number of tours. Layering, right? So getting back to regionals should spend a majority of time coaching. And unfortunately, that's probably where we spend the least time. And the coaching is, from my perspective and what I've seen, and it's really from lack of training, because being a coach takes practice. It's a special skill. Coaching isn't telling people what to do. Training and the rule book, the playbook is the outline, kind of gives the parameters on what the expectations are. Training, how to do things. Coaching is guiding another person through questions, through directing a conversation, through reflections, through learning more, deep listening to help them come to their own conclusion, really solve their own puzzle, and guiding them there. It takes practice. It takes patience. It's easier and faster to say, hey, just do this, or go do this, or you need to do this, or jumping to solve. Oh, let's do a hot lead review. Okay, do this. Have you done this? Why? What would you do differently? What would you do better next time? We want to jump to solve. Give them the answer. Go do a home visit. Get your nurse on the phone. Get your, call, send a video, send a personalized gift, plan. None of that is bad, but if you're on the receiving end of it, it feels top down heavy, and it can feel like a barrage. It can feel critical. It can put us on the defensive. Like, did you do this? Did you do this? What'd they say? Do this. Well, I did that, or did you say this? Or next time say that. Well, or why would they deposit. They're not ready right now. What can we do to help them get ready? Well, if they knew that, maybe they would work on it. Now, that's a question potentially for discussion and for coaching, but it instead of that top down. Did you do this? Already did this. Hot lead review. Play through this series. One of the takeaways is a much more effective approach to coaching. The reason I have so much passion for regionals is because I feel like, and I've been guilty of this too, we promote people who are really good at the community level tend to get promoted in the regional job, and it's two different skill sets. And then we kind of throw them out there because they're good at what they do and they know senior living and they're a successful salesperson. And we were busy and it's a whirlwind. And 90 days goes by, 180 days goes by. And we're like, well, what's happening? What's happening? And then we're top down to the regional. And the turnover in that regional position is extremely high, as it is in sales at the community level. And that's another puzzle piece to examine if it is a challenge in your company. The reason I've got these puzzle pieces here, if you're watching or if you're listening, there's puzzle pieces in my background, is that it's solving the occupancy puzzle. There's many components that make up the playbook of great sales and occupancy operations. Note, your sales team is not responsible for occupancy. They're responsible for the move-ins. They're responsible for checks. Operations, the executive director, the ops team is responsible for overall occupancy. So yes, I know our companies Grow Your Occupancy because it's collaboration. The sales teams are responsible for the front end. So when you got a month of 10 out, pushing that onto the salesperson and adding extra panic and adding extra stress and pressure isn't going to help. We're under enough stress and pressure. And by the way, if your salesperson isn't motivated by just that bit of pressure or puts it on themselves, then that might not be the right person. Your salesperson should be hyper aware and not beat themselves up, but be very aware of where they need to go, how many they need to have in. Yeah, we've got 10 out, really bad month, or we had 2 months of 6 out. We need 12 to get flat. Being aware of that. That doesn't mean you got to get 12 this month. You potentially could, depending on what your pipeline looks like, but being hyper aware. And if a salesperson isn't motivated by the gap, likely the wrong person in the seat. There's something about us in sales where we're motivated by the gap and gain. Should recognize the gain, be motivated by the gap. Don't beat yourself up. Lastly, for this part 1 podcast of Resolving the Occupancy Puzzle, in chapter 1 of the book, I talk about the 2 components create your outcomes: activity and skill. Talking a little bit about it during the podcast so far, but pointing it out, it's actually on page 19. Your results, your outcome in anything is a result of what you do and how well you do it. So volume without the skill isn't going to get you where you need to go. Skill, hey, I'm great close, I have 50% close rate, and you have 4 tours, or you're not in the database, you're not making enough phone calls, you're not doing the outreach. Oh, and you're the greatest, you've got great skill, you're not going to get where you need to go. It's a combination. Activity is easier to point out. It's look at the CRM, that benchmark or above benchmark, below benchmark. And what is the expectation? What are the activity expectations? Start with the tour, kind of work from there. Note, we'll get into outreach more too, but with outreach, make sure that the outcome is being examined, right, is being highlighted. We're talking like in outreach was like how many appointments, how many meetings, how many drop-bys. That's a leading measure. Lagging measure is your unpaid or professional referrals, or your unpaid, even your word of mouth. Just a note, so many of the times you see that outreach outcomes aren't highlighted nearly as much, if at all, compared to the move-ins, the deposits and move-ins from the internal sales. So activity and skill, the intersection of those two is getting you result. So when you're looking at your business, or you're looking at someone else's business, and you're figuring out what pieces may fit into improving any one area, could be an activity component, there could be a skill component, and likely there's more than one piece that fits into any outcome. All right, this concludes part one. I could go on and on and on, but I want to make these digestible for you. If you're riding to work, or taking a walk to walk off some stress, please like, share, subscribe. Thank you for waiting until the end, or listening through to the end, I should say. We are so appreciative, and I am so appreciative of every single one of you who takes time to listen to the podcast and share it. When I hear, oh, I listened to your podcast, or I've read your book, it means absolutely everything to me. And I'm so incredibly grateful for all of you who work in senior living, and for those sales professionals and professionals, period, who are always looking to, pun intended here, to grow, and who are naturally curious and lean into their curiosity. So I'll talk to you on the next podcast, part 2 of Resolving the Occupancy Puzzle. I am Julie Podewitz, and until then, let's make it a great day.
This webinar is brought to you by SalesMail, the #1 personalized video app for senior living.
Built on a powerful ROI and an unmatched customer experience, SalesMail's App Store ratings tell the only story you need to know. Generating higher click-through and conversion rates, SalesMail is a video app of choice for sales and marketing pros everywhere. Day after day, SalesMail users leverage video to build brand loyalty, create human connection, quickly establish trust, stand out from competitors, and get desired results faster.